Okay, so last time we had a look at chart and chart types, right? So we had a look at 15 different charts, pie chart, bar graph, and all those things. Could you recall those things what we learned last time? Anybody worked on that? Home expense homework which we discussed last time. Anybody want to present? Hello, could you hear me?
Yeah. So,
Yes, we can.
Go ahead, please.
so you want to, show the use case diagram, which we did on the homework last time?
Not use case diagram, sir. I'm talking about the home expense, type of Excel sheet, which we know we have to basically build into a pie chart or graph chart and analyze how the trends are moving, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I have not done that, but this is something like I do almost every day. So I used Excel very extensively.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
okay, that's really great because that trend analysis is what we want to learn basically within those thing. Anybody else have tried that?
No, sir.
Okay. Again, these are the homework which will basically make sure we have some sort of hands-on experience and we know how to devise an inference out of some data given to us. So this is really important. Means I'll not stress more because we are working professionally. So I really couldn't do something like with the stick and carrot kind of scenario. We all professionals. We know what needs to be done, what needs to be ignored. Okay. So I'll not stress again. If you do it, please present it on next session and we'll go through it. We need to do home expense sheet kind of understanding, data collection, and do a Excel sheet. You can do whatever graph you like, be it a pie chart, bar chart, 3D chart, or what all. Means we've learned around 15 different types of graphs in our last session. Okay, try any out of these things, and then what we might have done, we might have done a trend analysis on that. What is a trend analysis? How the expenses are shifting. Are we growing in grocery, reducing on gas because we are traveling less and less per day? Are we growing on gas and in comparison with other expenditure what we got? So this way it will give you a clear idea in terms of a person or a house expenses, either shifting head or mixing head or those kind of scenario. So we might have discussed in terms of how this trend analysis is carried out in a given meeting. Data collection is the maximum efforts what we need in a trend analysis study, and 90% of it, like you collect the data like we talked about last 6 months data in terms of expenses you are doing. The point here is not basically correcting somebody's life. Point is here to make understand how do we understand the data whatever we collected. Okay, and as an analyst we do collect data in terms of presenting it the right option, the decision analysis part of it. Okay, so it's a need. I'll again check with you in the next session. We might go on that stuff. Okay, so please do build data collection in terms of last 6 months expense the way you've done. Okay, you might put some sample figures. If you don't want to share your data, I can clearly understand that, but at least present that and then we'll understand how the trend analysis is carried out. Unless or until we know that thing, it's difficult. Every time when I say trend analysis, if you couldn't understand, it doesn't make sense, right? Because trend analysis is common throughout our management. As in management, mostly we try to control things which we can't measure. So how do we measure? So either you go by a trend analysis, historical artifacts, and then you try to control those things. So trend analysis is the most important part in terms of how do we decide based on the data at hand, based on the historical data. Okay, I believe you understand that. Let me move forward then. The next things we are going to learn today, and this is one of the most, I think, more scientific ways of how basically you do the Excel pivot chart here. So pivot chart are basically kind of automated inference generating machine. What do you mean by automated inference generating machine? Just looking at that diagram, looking at one sheet of Excel sheet, you get to know how this data is being inferred or put into something like inferred business, the result required by businesses. Okay, so pivot tables is one of the most crucial thing which Excel you can do within, a kind of self study, a kind of self understanding how I can use this pivot table to generate result out of data. Okay, so we are moving a step further. Unless and until you do the trend analysis part, this will kind of, a difficult part you might feel. Okay, but yeah, let's go through it. I'll play a video where we'll try to understand interactive dashboard, how to create interactive dashboard in the pivot tables. Okay, these pivot tables also referred as a pivot charts. This video normally works with 2010 and 2011 for Mac, and these are the kind of pivot tables we might do on our job basis. So something like business gives you a data, let's say sales figure. So let's say you're stationed in St. Louis, and your CEO, CTO, CFO comes to you and say, hey, business analyst, could you please try to infer out of this data what this data suggests to us. So what do you mean by suggest to us? These are sales figures. So what I'll try to understand, who did sales, what amount of sales he or she did, is it top salesman or a bottom salesman, whatever concession figures you've given on a given type of sales he achieved on what product, on what type of profit margins he might have incurred, earn during that sales figure, and then try to decide who is the best salesperson for a company, who earned the maximum profit. Okay, so this way we can really infer from the data. Based on the data supplied to you, you normally try to infer it, like we basically try to build a business understandable English like result. Okay, so let me play you this video and we'll understand how this is normally done. And then try to decide who is the best salesperson for a company, who earned the maximum profit. Okay, give me a minute. So this way we can really infer from the data. Based on the data supplied to you, you normally try to infer. Okay, so let me open that thing for you. I don't know why this starts. Yeah, so pivot tables. Okay. Yes. Well, let me share this with you so that you can understand. And if you have a question, don't stop yourself. Could you see a screen called Excel Campus?
Yes, sir.
So please have a look at it. It's a small, it's around 14.5 minutes video, and then we'll basically try to build a pivot table by ourselves. Okay, we'll try to get some data, and I'll tell you how the expense sheet can infer for you. Okay.
Welcome to Excel Campus. My name is John, and this is the first in a series of videos about pivot tables. So I want to introduce you to my friend Andy. Andy is new on the job, and he has been asked by his boss to create some reports and ultimately a dashboard for an upcoming presentation. All Andy was given is this giant sheet of data and a list of reports that his boss needs. Although he's excited about the challenge, Andy is wondering how he's going to turn this data into a nice-looking dashboard. Of course, he wants to save the day and become the superhero of the office. So what Andy really needs is to learn how to use pivot tables. In this video series, I'm going to show you how we're going to solve Andy's problem. We're going to take this sheet of data and turn
like this, we can get this is a kind of sample sales data where we have order number, order date, to which customer you sold, the customer company name, personal, whatever it's, then the address, city, state, zip, what we sold in terms of then what type of shipment have we done, something like that. So it's a kind of sample Excel data which Andy is basically trying to understand and trying to infer out something basically for the business. Okay,
turn it into a nice looking interactive dashboard using pivot tables and pivot charts. We are going to build each of these reports using pivot tables and then bring it all together to create the dashboard. And don't worry if you think this looks complicated. Pivot tables are very easy to use and don't require any complex formulas or VBA macros. Just simple drag and drop. Throughout this video series, I'm also going to be showing you an add-in I developed called PivotPal. PivotPal makes it easier to work with some aspects of pivot tables and will save you a lot of time. But you don't need to have PivotPal to create these pivot tables and dashboards. Everything you need is already built into Excel. All right, so in this first video, we're going to cover the basics of building a pivot table. I'm going to show you how to create this pivot table here that's a summary of revenue by sales rep, and also this pivot chart over here, which just displays that information visually. So we know that Andy has this set of data to work with. This is really all he's been given. And this is what we're going to use to create our pivot tables. This will be considered our source data. And before you start building a pivot table, it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with source data, especially if you haven't seen it before. So this data was exported from our general ledger software, and basically it contains order details for December. So each row in the data here contains information for a specific order. So you can see we have the order date, some customer information here, the salesperson, region, we got some shipping information as I scroll over, and we also have some product information and then some information about the price of the product, the revenue, quantity, all that stuff. So it's good information. The other thing you want to do is make sure that your data is in a tabular format. And that just means that you have a row of headers here at the top of the data set, and each of these headers describes the column of data below. And I provided a checklist so you can go over this in more detail. The other things you want to look out for is that you want to make sure there's no blank columns within your header row here, and no blank rows within your data set, especially if you have a column of dates. You want to make sure there's no blank rows or cells in your date column. You also want to look out for any merged cells. A lot of times when you're exporting data, the software will automatically merge some cells together, and you want to make sure you unmerge all the cells. So once your data is cleaned up, and this data looks pretty good, you go to the Insert tab on the ribbon, and then click the Pivot Table button. And that'll bring up this Create Pivot Table window. And basically it's asking us to select the table or range. Now you can see that Excel has automatically detected the range for me, and that's because I had a cell selected inside the pivot table, or I'm sorry, inside the data set before I clicked the Create Pivot Table button. So as long as you do that, select a cell inside the range, click this button, and Excel will automatically detect the range for you. If it doesn't, you can just click this blue button over here and go and select your range. The next step is that we want to choose where we're going to put the pivot table. In this case, we'll put it on a new worksheet. So I'll go ahead and click OK.
Just one quick question.
That's automatically added.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah. Can we get this data? So maybe we could try doing it ourselves alongside. Or do we have the Excel of that data? I mean, it will be there in that video probably.
See, okay, now let me showcase that.
Or if you can give me some, give us some other data.
Don't depend on anybody else. Let me, try to give you how you can create your own data. Okay. Say I'm starting my Excel. Could you see my Excel sheet?
Yeah.
My new Excel sheet. Okay, I keep this hidden, but let me open this thing. Oh, come on. Okay, let me keep this open for you so that you can understand. This is a typical Excel we get normally to create data. Let's say I need to create ID. Let's create an ID. Let's create a PROD prod name. Let's create address, salesperson name, revenue, and whatever profit you earn, right? As simple as that. So ID I need to create. So say ID 001. Okay. Now, and I just click here and pull this thing. Could you see? I have created 42 rows. Okay. Product name. So first product name can be what product you want to sell. Tell me. Let's say pen, ink, pen refill, ballpoint pen. Oh, sorry for the English. Ballpoint pen. Just say pen for kid, COLOR, color pen, and you can create, or you can just keep repeating these products. Okay.
Yeah.
Address. You can give any address, whatever XYZ. Then another YZ is for, and you can do something like that. I'm just trying to create a data. Okay. Now salesperson. So your salesperson, you can create whatever you want. Ravindra RTHI Murthy. Radhika, Suman, Dev, Kalpana. You can create as many as you want, whatever you remember. Okay, and revenue. Let's say Ravindra earned $5,000. Murthy ji earned 7,500. Okay, Radhika earned 4,000 or 4,500. Suman earned, let's say, 3,900. They earn 9,000. How much? Okay, so this you can repeat these things if you want. Color pen, then let's say pencil, books, and you can basically change around this thing. Profit, PROFIT. Okay, PROFIT, profits. So how much profits earn, you can calculate, or you can just put it here. So how much profit earn, let's in a percentage, so equal to this thing, and in terms of percentage plus rather, oh sorry
You can also get a sample data from Google. I just
Yeah.
sent what you can type in the Google search, and you will get sample Google data, and just prepare
let's try that
all
thing.
the
Yeah.
charts accordingly.
Let me try that thing also. That's
No,
a good idea.
like my idea was that so that we can verify our result. So I mean, if we use the same
Yeah,
data,
so
so we can just verify the result. That was my idea. That's it.
Okay, means let's try this Google way where we will try
I just
to.
downloaded one from Google.
Yeah.
Okay,
With
share your screen, sir. Let
okay,
me make you okay. Let me make you co-host so that you can share your screen. Yes, sir. You can share your screen.
no, it's
Maybe
Syam. You gave it to Nipun.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me for that.
so
No problem.
maybe if you can send the link, we could all download like one specific data so that it's just that we can confirm whatever we have done is
Refer to
correct.
the I sent that what you need to search in the chat.
Oh, okay, okay. But
Just
then
search
it
it,
will.
and the whatever first result you get, just click on it.
Uh,
You will download one file.
Shamji, could you
okay.
present and tell everybody how to get this data? It's really
Yeah, yeah.
simple.
Okay.
Create your own also. You can could you present, sir?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Sample
Okay.
Excel data file XLS. Wow.
So just type in this for exact same thing, sample Excel data, and then file type .xls. So it will only show you the link, which is actually Excel downloadable. So here, instead of Excel, just do the colon. Yeah. So now you will get all the Excel files. If you see here, XLS. So if you just right click and open in the new tab, it will download one file, Excel file. And this is what I have downloaded.
Do you mind sharing that specific file? Because I'm getting different results. So Google is different for everyone. I mean,
Yeah, it depends on the which country you are, and
yeah. So I mean, obviously, I know we can just download some sample data, but my once again reiterating, my point was just to check the results because we may not be doing it correctly. So that was my whole idea. So we can just kind of finalize one file and just work on that. Everybody works on that basically. So it's
got
for
it.
Creative rather than working like what you can say a typical students or something. Let's work like professional. Let's have separate data and we'll understand separate problem there. Could you understand what I'm trying to say, sir, madam?
okay, fine. I mean, fine with me,
And
no
try to
problem.
use some innovative ideas how we can create inference out of this Excel sheet. See, as a business analyst or even as a project manager, we do keep getting data. Okay, and this data we need to understand in terms of why we collected this data. So there should be a reason, right? We have started collecting data, so we need to infer out. Okay, so this data is collected now. How can we present in terms of business required result? Okay, and that's why we normally go ahead with these type of pivot table scenario. Okay, so try to use different data, put different filters, different rows, values. How do we put it? That's what we're going to learn.
Okay,
So,
sure.
how you do it on a different Excel, that'll give you different challenges, right? Some data might be really clean and all. Some data might not be that clean as we normally speak and all. Okay, so play around with different data rather than just downloading single Excel sheet and fiddling around with it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Okay, yeah. So let's understand how do you create these pivot tables. Okay.
A new sheet to our workbook here and created this pivot table area. You'll also notice over on the right side that this pivot table fields list has appeared. And this is basically the window we're going to use to create the pivot. Okay. If it doesn't, then click the pivot table button. And that'll bring up this create pivot table window. And basically it's asking us to select the table or range. Now you can see that Excel has automatically detected the range for me. And that's because I had a cell selected inside the pivot table, or I'm sorry, inside the data set before I clicked the create pivot table button. So as long as you do that, select a cell inside the range, click this button, and Excel will automatically detect the range for you. If it doesn't, you can just click this blue button over here and go and select your range. The next step is that we want to choose where we're going to put the pivot table. In this case, we'll put it on a new worksheet. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And now you'll see that's automatically added a new sheet to our workbook here and created this pivot table area. You'll also notice over on the right side that this pivot table fields list has appeared. And this is basically the window we're going to use to create the pivot table. So here's a list of all the fields in our data set here. And then down below is the areas that we can drag those fields into to create a pivot table report. So the first thing I'm going to do is find that salesperson field, and here it is here. I'm going to drag that into the rows area. So I'm going to left click and hold, drag it into the rows area of the pivot table and drop it there. And you'll notice now that in the pivot table, it's listed our sales reps in the rows area of the pivot table. So each row contains our sales rep name. Now I want to add the revenue to this report as well, so I can get a summary of revenue. So I'm going to find this revenue field here in the field list, and then drag it into the values area of the pivot table. When I drag it into the values area and drop it there, you'll notice that Excel has automatically calculated the sum of revenue for each rep that's listed in the rows area of the pivot table. So this is really the power and the magic of the pivot table. It is automatically calculated the sum of revenue for each rep just almost instantly as we drag the field into the values area. And it's a good idea to get an understanding of what actually happens there. So let me try and explain this a little better. So here we can see Andrew has sales of 12,368 here in the pivot table. And basically what the pivot table has done, so I go back to the data tab, I'm going to filter the salesperson field here for Andrew. So we're just seeing the sales that Andrew's done. And you can see here that he's done 8 sales in the month of December. Now if I go over to the rows column, and I'm just going to select these revenue numbers here, you can see here's our sum of revenue, 12,368 for Andrew. So basically the pivot table has done this filter and calculation for us. It's basically filtered the data set for each rep, each unique item in that field, and then calculated the sum of revenue for each rep. So it's a very powerful tool because with just a few clicks, you can see that we've automatically created this nice summary report from our data set. And I also have a pivot table diagram here that just kind of shows you where each of these areas are within a standard pivot table. So you can see this is kind of a standard looking report. We have our sales rep here on the left side. We have quarters across the top, and then the sum of revenue here in the middle section. And up at here, we have the year, a filter for the year. So these are basically the different areas that you can drag fields into in the pivot table. And each of them displays information a little differently. So throughout this video series, I'll explain how each of these areas within the pivot table works. Okay, so let's continue building out our pivot table. So probably the first thing you notice is that these numbers are not formatted. When we drug the revenue field into the values area, it did not format those numbers. So we want to format those. And the easiest way to do that is you just right-click on any cell in the values area there, and then go to value field settings. That'll bring up this value field settings for the revenue field, sum of revenue. And we're going to click on the number format button. That'll bring up the format cells dialog. This one you're probably familiar with. Just going to choose currency, no decimals, click OK, and then click OK here. And you can see now that our numbers are formatted and they look a little nicer. The next thing I'm going to do is sort this information. So I want to put the top performing rep at the top of the list here. So basically, I'm just going to select any cell in the values area and right click and then go to sort and sort largest to smallest. And now that's sorted our list here from largest to smallest. So we can see our top performing rep, which is Nancy, at the top of the list, and then our bottom performing rep, which is Jan, down at the bottom. So this now gives us some really good information. We can kind of see who's doing well and maybe who struggled this month or for some reason didn't do as well. And I'm more of a visual person, so I want to see this information in a chart as well. So as long as I have any cell selected in the pivot table, go up to the Analyze tab or the Options tab and click Pivot Chart. And that'll bring up this chart window, and I'm going to insert a bar chart. Click OK. So now we've automatically created a bar chart here that it just allows us to visualize this information. And I'm going to quickly show you how we can clean this up, because the default chart formatting out of the box it's kind of ugly, honestly. So we're going to clean this up a bit. So the first thing I typically do is just hide all these field buttons. These field buttons allow you to apply filters, but we don't really need that for our dashboard. So I'm going to hide those. You'll also notice that these names here are in the opposite order of what they are here on the pivot table. So we need to reverse the order of this. So I'm going to right click here, go to Format Access. That'll bring up this Format Access window. It looks a little different in Excel 2010, but the options are the same. Go to Access Options, and then I'm going to check this box, Categories in Reverse Order. And that's going to reverse the order of these categories here so they match what's on the page. I'm going to close that. The other thing I want to do is, well, I'm going to get rid of these labels here, so I'm just going to left click to select those and hit the delete key on the keyboard. I'm also going to get rid of the legend, so click that and delete on the keyboard. And I want to get rid of these vertical lines, so I'm going to left click on those, delete. And then I also want to add some labels here. So in Excel 2013, you can just click on this plus button, go to data labels. That'll add our data labels there. I'm going to make my plot area a little smaller so the data label doesn't overlap the bar. And now I also want to make these bars wider. So to do that, I'm going to again right click on a bar, right click, go to Format Data Series. That'll bring up the Format Data Series window. And we're looking in the series options, we're looking for a gap width. And if I just make that smaller, that'll make the gap between the bars smaller and make the bars bigger. So now we can see that we have some bigger looking bars. And this is starting to look pretty nice. Of course, we want to add a title here. So we're going to go Sales by Rep for December 2014, something like that. So now with just a few clicks, we have this great looking chart that allows us to visually see our report here, our sales by rep for the month of December. So hopefully you've kind of seen the power of the pivot table here, and it's not really that scary of an item. It's actually very easy to use and extremely powerful, and allows you to quickly summarize and visualize your information. All right, so I want to quickly show you how you can use PivotPal to create this same pivot table report, and how it makes it a little faster to do so. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out this report so we can start fresh. And to delete fields out of your pivot table, you can go over here to the pivot table field list and just left click and drag them out of the area until you see that X next to the mouse icon, and then let go. And that'll delete the field out of the area right there. So now we have this blank pivot table. And I'm just going to go up to the Excel Campus tab on the ribbon and click the pivot.
This is an add-on. This doesn't comes free with the Excel sheet, so you might need to go to a particular site and download these things. Something like this, quite a good number of add-ons we have for Excel. many companies have created their own add-ons. You can create add-ons with a VB micro type of programming. We don't do that as an analyst, we just analyze, right? So if you go to a company, they might, you might see something like Excel Campus or Infi Campus or, Infi Table or something like that sort. Infi means Infosys, Wipro, TCS, and, similarly, they normally create their own such pre-programmed pivot tables. So whatever report they need, they can you can click those reports with a click of mouse. Now these are proprietary, these are copyrighted by the respective owners. This doesn't come with the Microsoft Excel. Well, with the Microsoft Excel we have got these pivot tables and good number of micros and add-on as well. Quite a good number of such add-ons are available on a free. If you search Google on Excel add-on for pivot tables, you'll get a list of around 15,000 odd results. So you can add so much. But frankly speaking, we don't want to learn these things. Just to give an idea how this add-on works, let's have a look at this fellow and let's try to understand that Excel Campus, which is created by these guys. Okay, so it's a proprietary copyrighted add-on product which he have created. He might charge some dollar or he might give you free as well. He was giving free, but I think now they are charging $5 per year kind of scenario. I don't know why, but yes, something like that. So these things people do. These are like, hardly 20 to 30 line of programs which they have created within Excel. Okay, so learning programming is not our purview right now. Just trying to understand how they configure these add-ons and how they let you use for a specific purpose for a given organization, because they do it a particular way, right? And so on and so forth. So that's why let's hear him out. It'll hardly 2.5 minutes kind of video where we'll try to understand if you have add-on, how do you add it and how that additional menu comes to your Excel sheet. Okay, have a look at this.
Pal button. Once you install PivotPal, you'll see this Excel Campus tab up here. And basically PivotPal is an add-in that I've developed that makes it faster and easier to work with some aspects of pivot tables. So you'll notice one thing when we were building the pivot table, we basically were scrolling through this list over here to try and find our field that we wanted to add to one of these areas. And PivotPal has a built-in search that makes this much faster. So if I want to find salesperson, I can just start typing salesperson. You'll see as I start typing, the results are narrowed down. I can choose salesperson here, hit enter. That'll select it down here in the field list for me. And then I can use these buttons or keyboard shortcuts to place the selected field in the area of the pivot table. So I want to put salesperson in rows, and now it's just added to rows. I also want to put revenue into my values area. This time I use keyboard shortcut Alt-V, and that'll put the revenue in my values area very quickly. The other nice feature of PivotPal is that it automatically formats the values area for you. So you notice when we added this revenue field, I'll just go ahead and delete the values area out. When we add the revenue field into the values area using the field list, the numbers are not formatted. You can see that they're not formatted. We have to take a few extra steps to format them. However, when we do this with PivotPal, again, I'll add the revenue to the values area. This with PivotPal, the numbers automatically formatted.
As you can see, you have created this tool for this specific sheet because the sorting and everything has to be done after you collected the variables, if you know programmatically. But otherwise, these add-ons are normally created for a specific data rather than a generic data. Okay?
And that's because PivotPal detects the source formatting. So there's a formatting drop down here in PivotPal, and it detects the source formatting of the field. So if I go to the data set, and this button allows you to jump back to the data, you can see our revenue field has this currency format already applied to it. And PivotPal will automatically format that field for you like that. And if your source data is not formatted or you want to change the format, you can do that very quickly with PivotPal as well. You can just select from any of these predefined options here and format the values area very quickly. And of course, you can change this list here and add your custom formats to it as you like. So in the next video, we're going to learn a few more great features.
I'll share the link of the next video also, okay, so that you can have a look at this is a really good video to start understanding the pivot tables. You can basically go to a pivot tables to a really complicated level, where you can actually start basically understanding the data as an a detail oriented data scientist to start with. So it's really detailed. We don't want to go to that detail. We want to just understand how we can create inference out of the data from a particular data set to a business required result. Okay, and this way we create basically these you can take a screenshot of these pivot tables and paste it in your presentation, and while presenting you can also open Excel sheet if somebody needs to change some value. As soon as you change some value in a data set, the pivot tables get updated at a real time basis, because the data and the UI is clubbed together in terms of Excel. Okay, does anybody have any question for me at this moment?
No, sir.
Very good, right? Okay, so let's move to the next most important thing we do. You might not do pivot tables every time. You might not do Excel chart every time. But yes, we have to do high level diagrams. Okay, let's try to understand why as a business analyst we need to do high level diagram. Okay, we do high level diagrams to build a conceptual or a logical representation of the solution which we are trying to suggest to a client. So in a normal thought process, as we've discussed quite a few times, me working as an analyst for Infosys, which is a really mature IT company, meeting the sales, State Farm VP HR, or any other dignitary for that matter, to understand what he needs in terms of technological solution to be developed with the latest technology appraisement, with the latest technology applications. Okay, so for that, me as a business analyst going to visit this VPHR for the first time with my sales area sales manager or VP sales or whatnot, and we go and meet him, say okay, tell us. So he said yes, he normally talks to these your sales officer, saying okay, hey, as we discussed on the phone last time, we had good number of problems with these attendance proxies, and not getting the exact attendance out of that manual attendance process. So I want to automate that attendance process, make it 24/7 common for every offices in the world, with the centralized data and so on and so forth. So he have given some idea what he is looking for. As a business analyst, you take the minutes of meeting, you also voice record the meeting. When you come to your office, you try to basically create a MOM, and you normally share it within a couple of hours with the VPHR, your sales representative, and say, okay, please guide me if I have missed anything. Okay, so he said, yeah, this is really good. And from that, you start creating requirement list. So in the requirements, what you see, first requirement, they want 24/7 solution, they want centralized database, they want to have go away with the problem like proxies and everything. So all these type of list or a wish list, you can say, can be termed as a requirement. Even they want to basically cover the attendance process within 30 odd seconds rather than 1 minute or 2 minutes. Being employee entered into the gate, he signs the leisure register, attendance register, show a visual ID. This is the older attendance process which we used to do whenever we were doing it manually. Okay, but now every company has biometric, infrared, and all those things, so we don't want to go the older way. Let's try to understand how we enhance a solution, or how we help giving solution to all these companies which are not technically that advanced, or they can't create solution by themselves. Okay, so as an Infosys business analyst, I try to understand how I can present this solution to them, right? So what I do, I collect such requirement. I might talk to more of client, person or the stakeholders, and trying to understand what they wish for attendance management be enhanced at what level. Now I got these details, like it should be 24/7 centralized database. It should also support leave management and blah 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 thing. So what I come across, across a thought process saying, okay, let's build a cloud-based solution with biometric as an attendance management solution. Now biometric, I don't have to create a biometric because biometrics are available in the market. So if these guys have, let's say 60 plus offices across 6 countries, yes, I can really procure this biometric at a local level, or I can ship it from US or China or whatever is economical for the given project, a solution which we are providing to the State Farm as an Infosys company. Here, the most important thing is me as an analyst creating a relation between two big organizations, and I am working as a bridge between these two. So it's really crucial work that we are doing. It's really very, noticeable work you are doing for everybody within these two organizations. So whenever you try to represent Infosys to the State Farm, there's a big responsibility on your shoulder of representing Infosys completely with its all matured process, really, templatized or standardized process to these State Farm. And State Farm will say, yes, wow, this is really good. Means they know what they are doing, they have template for everything, so they do it in a standard best practices way. Okay, so all these template we normally get it from the Infosys quality management system, where we have an archival for templates. So there will be templates for project management, there will be templates for minutes of meeting, there will be templates for SWOT diagram, there will be templates for high level diagram as well. Okay, now let's try to understand what does high level diagram comprised of. High level diagram explain architecture that would be used for developing a software product. Okay, it can be a software product or any other product. Means you can develop a Mars lander high level diagram as well. It's available on the NASA site. Well, it's really complicated because it's now fully developed, so they have added all flora and fauna which they are updated. High level diagram also have number of versions because you start small. You normally start with couple of blocks. Okay, so here we are going to learn how do we start, and we do some hands-on experience on that as well. Okay, so I would like you to think it through and draw some high level diagram, and I'll share that assignment at the end of this session. Okay, let's go over it. The architecture diagram provides an overview of entire system, identifying the main components that would be developed for the product and their interfaces. We are not developing architecture diagram, we are not designing the system, we are building only conceptual or a logical diagram. Okay, let's get this thing clear. Architecture diagram might have all the blocks and communication between them. In terms of high level diagram, we just create a bird's eye view. So there will be 2 or 3 or let's say 5 major blocks and a communication between themselves. Could you understand what I'm trying to say? Anybody have any confusion?
No, sir.
Well, let's go ahead. The HLD, it's normally referred as a HLD. So whenever interviewer asks what is HLD, you need to tell him it's a high level diagram which is normally used to start building or conceptualizing a solution. There could be wrongs, there could be the missing blocks. There are no definite way like you have to use 2 blocks, 5 blocks, 10 arrows or something like that. It depends on the artistic nature of a business analyst. The more your experience, the more in depth you can go. Okay, and this basically goes on with the experience rather than me telling you do this way, do that way. Again, you have to use your artistic nature, your personal understanding, personal experience, personal education, and all those things, right? In contrast to the low level diagram. Now low level diagram, what we normally call as a high level diagram, infrastructure diagram, class diagram, low level diagrams are normally class diagram, infrastructure diagram, and all those things. These are normally designed and created by the architecture and designer of the world. We don't do low level diagrams, and that's a kind of industry standard. Okay, if the employer wants to have you draw low level diagram, you might need a training for a given platform. So a Java low level diagram is totally different from a C or a Python low level diagram. Okay, so we don't do low level diagram. High level diagrams are normally technology independent. Okay, the HLD uses probably non-technical or to mildly technical terms that should be understandable to the administrator of the system. So what we are doing, we are conveying the knowledge to the development team through high level diagrams. Okay, in contrast to low level design further exposes the logical detailed design for each of these elements for the programmers. We don't do that. Such an overview helps supporting components to be compatible to others or not. Okay, so in this scenario we can go up to level. Should we use biometry? Should we use iris scanners? What are the pros and cons? And then present it in Excel. Let's say biometric scanner cost around $30-40 each piece. retina scanner or iris scanner, they cost you around $300 plus. So yes, biometric scanners are economical. But yes, and we'll basically study depth in how basically conclude in terms of decision making process. Okay, but high level diagram, you might suggest, like you might use biometric or iris scanner. That's also fine with the knowledge transfer team. The highest level design should briefly describes the platform, system, product, services, and process that it depends on, and include any important changes that need to be made to them. So here, what we're trying to do, we are trying to create some blocks, some logical, understanding of how that system will be designed, developed, and these are suggestive things. These are not finite. So as a business analyst, I conceive the solution in just conceptual or a logical way. I don't go in detailing in terms of Java is better, .NET is better, Iris Scanner is better, or biometric is better. Yes, I can give suggestion, but these are just suggestions. Every type of end user should be identified in the high level design, and each contributing design should be given should give a due consideration to the customer's experience. Now, these are expectation. What they are saying, whatever system you are designing, you need to understand each and every of users. Well, you might not every time, but that's a kind of expectation they are setting for a high level diagram. Okay, so this way we have to create a logical diagrams with couple of blocks and couple of arrows to make sure we'll start conceiving the diagram logically, or we are just trying to kickstart the thought process. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's take a step further and let's try to understand how we can build diagrams, what type of tools we can use. Okay, these are normally named as conceptual, logical module, overview, bird's eye view, or data flow, process flow, business process diagram. So there are various names which these diagrams normally called off. Depending upon your organizations, they might call it Bpmn, business process modeling diagram as well. And there is Bpmn 1, Bpmn 2, Bpmn 3, and so on so forth. Okay, so again, high level diagram not always labeled as a high level diagram. Normally it's called as a conceptual diagram, logical diagram, module diagram, and so on so forth. A high level design provides an overview of a system, product, service, or processes. Such an overview helps supporting components can be compatible to each others or not. And we'll basically draw some diagram and you'll understand what I mean exactly by these things. Okay, the highest level design should briefly describes all platform, system, product, services. Well, these are again expectation. Okay, now the tools which we have used, we can use MS Visio, we can use Lucid Charts, we can use pen, paper, and there are number of tools available for high level diagrams. Among these, the business process diagrams are the most advanced. They have Bpmn 2 type of notifications here, and you might use them as well. Okay, business process diagram can also called as a process flow diagram, and we're going to learn these step by step. But first, let's try to understand how we draw high level diagram in terms of a typical pen and paper way. Okay, and then I'll come to the Bpmn again. Could you see a diagram here?
Yes,
It's
sir.
called high level design diagram. Now here what we are trying to do, there's a block here on the left hand side where I have just jotted down all wish list business problems, and then I create solutions 1, 2, 3, 4, and which will basically relate to a single requirement or a multiple requirement or vice versa. So I can have one solution for multiple requirement or multiple solution for one requirement also. And this is actually the high level diagram we are talking about. So it's not detailed. Yes, it's not detailed, but it will give you an idea what we need to do in terms of how do we are supporting State Farm to give a solution and what type of solution is this. Okay, now I've just collected a couple of previous hands-on experience in terms of how they drawn the what you can say high level diagram. So here we have a good requirement list, like on the left hand side. So current attendance system, manual. So there are problem: paper, register, logbook, sign in, time with supervisor, observing the identity checks like the visual photo ID and all those things, conversion to digital documents by HR. It's a time consuming. Many offices have their own standard, own way of register, name first, number second time, and so on and so forth. So here I'm trying to suggest a solution to them on the right hand side. Could you see a right hand side box here? A kind of light pink, right? Called as a solution. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, no, so it's a static image, so I can't move anything. So here, what I was suggesting here: a biometric, ID scanners, if possible, ad leave management, a standard data distribution across offices, alerts on mobile, palm top, desktop. There is approval system, a unified system, central command center or central database on the cloud, and a cloud deployment. So 24/7, always on for support. This is what that VPHR have told. Then in later discussion, I have also added guest pass entry or SAP ERP, which they were using previously to move the data from SAP to this system. This is a complete high level diagram, and there's a cloud in the background which denotes cloud deployment. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So something like this is what you can say a first level or a raw level, high level diagram. And this is what we normally include in our SRS, where I give a clear idea in terms of what were the problem and what were the solutions which we have discussed and which got approved from the client. As the system requirement specification got approved by the client, so the high level diagram as well. Or you can have high level diagrams approved separately as well, depending upon the organization you're working for. They normally have a processes for these approvals and sanctions given by client to you. Okay, so that's how we build high level diagrams slowly, steadily. And then there are other ways, means everybody have its own, every artist has his own way to paint picture. Here he have just shown the cloud for the solution. Here left hand sides are the problem, right hand sides are the solution. As simple as that, right? So every problem list is on the left side, solution on the right side. That's the standard what you can say thumb level rule we normally follow. Okay, but you can do either way also, but normally this is the way we normally represent high level diagrams. Okay, now yes, let me try to go to the Bpmn tool which we are talking about. Okay, so there are Bpmn tool, it's called business process model and notation. This is a Bpmn. These are the one of the most high level thought processes in one of the most matured thought process in high level diagram. So here what we're trying to do, we have a unified shapes or events or activities normally denoted with a tool. Okay, now this tool can be Visio, tool can be a separate Bpmn tool. There are good number of tools available for Bpmn as well. Okay, each shape representing something that occurs within a planned business process. Okay, and then it should be noted that many people uses shapes slightly in different ways, but the basic principle will remain the same. So we are trying to build a discipline into this diagramming, and Bpmn can be used to visually represent purchases, processes, order fulfillment, and so on and so forth. Okay, I have really good video for you called business process model and notation tutorial. I got it from a Bpmn tool site. So it normally, oh come on, it normally advocates a type of oh come on, it's not coming. Oh, yes.
Hi, today I'll be...
Oh, come on. It's from Lucid Chart, the Lucid Chart which we used from the Excel sheet, right? For the use case diagram or for the couple of other diagrams. Let's have a look at these business process model and notification. So here we are trying to understand some standard notations, okay? And this way we are trying to build some uniformity in building high level diagram also. And these are called high level diagram because this gives you a bird's eye view, okay? Anybody have any questions in terms of what are high level diagrams? Have you understood, in a basic thought process at least, what we are talking about when we talk about high level diagrams? Have you got a basic idea at least when
Yes,
we
sir.
talk?
I had one quick question.
Please go ahead,
So
sir.
yeah, so here it was like a very basic thing, like we are presenting, okay, these are the problems and these are the solutions. But
Right,
say
sir.
we have to describe like, 2-3 systems interacting together. Say for example, we have to describe how the scanner interacts with the system. For example, scanner interacts with the server, that kind of thing. So will that be included in the high level diagram or?
Again, sir, as a business analyst, we need to decide that, but how to represent that, I'll guide you on that. Okay,
Sure,
let's have
sure. Okay.
video. Please park your question and then we'll discuss in
Yeah,
detail.
sure.
Really great question, believe me. And I really like the way you're thinking in terms of, you're going ahead in understanding how I can do it. So these are the tools which we are going to learn, and where we basically will understand if at all we need to present. Again, these expectations are normally given by the stakeholders, like, okay, I want you to have these things go on pen and paper. It means that you need to include it in a diagram. Okay, so this way there are more suggestive view from stakeholder or your salesperson as well. So in that way we might include, but again it depends on situation and how the demands of stakeholder, because they are paying for the solution, right? And so on and so forth. And again it depends on the timelines as well. Okay, but let's try to understand how we can do it in a disciplined way. You've seen the other raw way. Many companies still do it with a pen and paper. There are a good number of companies who migrated to something like lucid chart, business process model diagram, and so on and so forth. Okay, but let's have a look at this Bpmn and then we'll discuss more.
Teaching you about business process model and notation, also known as Bpmn or Bpmn 2.0. Bpmn is a flowchart method that models the steps of a planned business process from start to finish. At a high level, Bpmn helps stakeholders gain understanding through a visual representation of a specific process. Because diagramming can make complex ideas easier to understand, Bpmn helps process participants, analysts, managers, technical developers, and many others to visually represent things like order fulfillment, incident management, purchase processes, and many other essential business sequences. In this tutorial, we'll quickly go over the building blocks of Bpmn and spend the rest of our time creating a simple Bpmn diagram together. To build my diagram, I'll be using a diagramming software called Lucidchart. Check out the link in the description below if you want to follow along in the product. You can sign up for a free Lucidchart account that includes a Bpmn 2.0 shape library. Bpmn is made up of certain elements or shapes that comprise its visual language. Bpmn has 4 main groups of shapes. I'll be going into detail on each of these later, but here are the main categories. Flow objects. These include events, activities, and gateways. Connecting objects. These are the lines that show sequence and message flow, as well as associations. Pools and swim lanes. These represent major participants in a process. Artifacts. These bring an additional level of detail to a Bpmn diagram. The first kind of flow object is an event. Events are triggers that start, modify, or complete a process. There are 3 types of events: start, intermediate, and end. Each process in a Bpmn diagram must begin with an initiating event called the start event. A start event is designated by a circle with a thin border. Many start events contain an icon in the middle to define the event's trigger. For example, a start event that contains an envelope icon indicates that a message arrives and triggers the start of a process. An intermediate event has a double border made of 2 circles. End events signify the end of a particular process or path within a process. When you see an end event, you'll know that nothing else needs to be done in the process after that point. End events have a thick border. Intermediate and end events, like starting events, can be further designated by one of several symbols. And remember, your Bpmn diagram, no matter what it is, will always have at least 1 start event and at least 1 end event. Activities are the next type of flow object, and they are the building blocks of Bpmn diagrams. They represent specific tasks performed by a person or system, and they're shown by a rectangle with rounded corners. There are 4 main types of activities: task, subprocess, transaction, and call. For sake of simplicity, we'll only focus on tasks in this tutorial. A task is a single action that occurs in a business process, like mailing a letter or editing a draft of a news release. They are likely the most common shapes you'll see in a diagram because they represent actions performed by process participants. Remember that activities, like a lot of shapes in Bpmn, can be further designated with icons to visually show important attributes, like message send or receive, user tasks, manual tasks, or service tasks, among others. The last type of flow objects are gateways. Gateways are represented by a diamond shape and are decision points that can adjust the process path or flow based on certain conditions or events. Like a pipe may split and divert water in two directions, so are gateways. They create a condition where a choice needs to be made. For example, a gateway can be used to show the separation in a process path where a customer decides between two different shipping options. There are several different types of gateways differentiated with symbols. We won't go more into these right now, but I'll include a link in the description of this video that covers each type in more detail. While gateways call out certain decision points, it should be noted that gateways are not decisions, nor do they make decisions. Rather, they dictate the flow of the process. Connecting objects are the lines present in every BPMN diagram. They show the order of activities to be performed, and there are three types. First is the sequence flow symbol, a solid line with an arrow at the end, which shows the main order of activities to be performed. Next is the message flow symbol, a dotted line that depicts messages that flow across pools. You'll see these lines connecting different tasks between swim lanes. More on that in a moment. Lastly, there's the association symbol, which shows relationships between artifacts and flow objects. We'll cover artifacts in a few moments as well. A pool represents a major participant in a process, like a company or an organization, and swim lanes show the participants within each company or organization. Swim lanes help define who is accountable for each part of the process, so no important steps are missed. Any process that involves one or more contributor will have swim lanes, and if you're modeling, for example, a business-to-business collaboration, you can give each company their own pool and further separate participants within each company with their own swim lanes. That type of BPMN diagram is called a collaborative diagram, and it's what we'll be creating together today. Lastly, there are artifacts. These are mostly used to bring an added level of detail to your BPMN diagram. There are three types of artifacts: data, group, and annotation. A data object represents data placed into the process, data resulting from the process, data that needs to be collected, or data that must be stored. A group object organizes tasks or processes that have significance to the overall process. For example, you might see a group around a certain set of activities and gateways. While a group may show a logical grouping of activities, it does not affect the flow of the diagram at all. Lastly, an annotation shape provides the modeler opportunities to describe additional flow parts of the BPMN diagram. Think of annotations as comments that can be used to clarify or explain a particularly complex part of a process. Flow objects, connecting objects, pools and swim lanes, and artifacts work together to make up BPMN's language. Now let's create a BPMN diagram together. Again, if you'd like to follow along in Lucidchart, check out the link below to sign up for a free trial. If not, follow along with your diagramming software of choice, or even a pen and paper. To further illustrate the concepts we've covered so far, I'm going to make up an example. We're going to make a basic BPMN diagram showing the process of buying ice cream in an ice cream shop. The first thing I need to do is identify what parties are involved in this process. First, there's the customer, and second, there's the ice cream shop. Since the customer doesn't work at the ice cream shop, and the ice cream shop doesn't employ the customer, they'll each have their own separate pool. This particular ice cream shop has two employees: the person making the ice cream, who we'll call the ice cream artist, and the cashier. These two will be put in the ice cream shop pool, but each have their own lane, as they have their own roles throughout the process. As we build this BPMN diagram, these will help us show quickly who's in charge of what tasks. To start documenting our process for buying ice cream, we'll first use a starting event shape. What is the starting event here? For every customer, in order to get ice cream from the shop, they first have to enter the store. Once a customer is in the store, the first thing they'll need to do to continue the process is to review the menu. This ice cream shop has lots of flavors, and the customer wants to be sure they see something they like before they order. Review menu will be the first task in our BPMN diagram. We'll also connect the starting event to this first activity, with the arrow pointing in the direction the process is going. This shows that first the customer enters the store and then reviews the menu options. After reviewing the menu options, the customer can react in one of two ways. They'll either see something they want to order, or they won't want to order anything. Because we have two options after this first task, we'll need a gateway. Remember, gateways are diamond-shaped and help guide the flow of the process. We'll include an X in the gateway to show that these two options are mutually exclusive. This is called an exclusive gateway. So we'll draw two arrows and label one wants to order ice cream, and the other doesn't want to order ice cream. If a customer doesn't want to order after reviewing the menu, they'll simply leave the store, and since nothing else happens after that, we'll make that an end event for this path in the process. After we label this leaves the store, there's nothing else we need to do for the path. For the other path, if the customer is excited about a particular ice cream flavor and wants to order, the next thing they'll do is order ice cream. We'll make orders ice cream our next task in this separate path. A couple of things to note regarding this task. First, because ordering ice cream involves communication with the ice cream artist, we'll put a black envelope icon in the top left of the task, indicating this is a send task, or one that involves sending a message to another process participant. Second, we need to consider what comes next in the process for both the customer and the ice cream artist. If you're the customer, after you've ordered ice cream, you need to wait for your ice cream to be made. This is our first intermediate event in the process, and we'll label it Wait for Ice Cream to be Made. We can also include a timer symbol to visually indicate that time is passing here for the customer. After that, the customer doesn't do anything until they receive their ice cream. And since that is so significant to the process, we'll consider it an intermediate event as well. If you're the ice cream artist, the first thing you're responsible for is to receive the order. This is the ice cream artist's starting event, and it is connected to the send task orders ice cream via a message flow symbol. We'll also put a white envelope icon in it to indicate that the message that was sent by the customer is received here. After the order has been received, the first task they need to perform is to check and make sure the ingredients for the order are available. The ice cream artist can't fulfill an order request without the necessary ingredients. At this ice cream shop, all the ice cream flavors are in tubs, so the ice cream artist can easily see what flavors are available. For the sake of this example, we'll call the tubs of ice cream our ice cream data, which we'll represent with a data shape. To fulfill the task, check ingredients, there needs to be an input of ice cream data. We can connect the data shape to the check ingredients task to show that at this point in the process, data must be input to move forward. We can also include an arrow icon with our data icon to show that this is data being input for this task. After checking for available ingredients, one of two things can happen. Either the ingredients are available, or there are not enough ingredients to fulfill the order. Because these options are mutually exclusive, we need another exclusive gateway to show the split in the flow of the process. We'll label the two arrows after this gateway to show the options. If ingredients are available to fulfill the order, the ice cream artist can make the ice cream. Since making the ice cream is performed physically by a person, we'll put a hand icon in our task to reflect that. This is a manual task. After making the ice cream artist then gives the ice cream to the customer, which is another manual task. But if there are not enough ingredients to fulfill the customer's order, the ice cream artist needs to perform the task, informs the customer. Then the customer will need to review the menu to see if there's anything else they want. And since that is already a step in our process, we can connect it back to the first task for the customer. Then the customer can decide if they want to order or not, and the process will continue as we've documented it so far. When we go back to the task gives ice cream, we'll use another message flow symbol to return to the customer pool and connect it to the intermediate event receives ice cream. Now that the customer has the ice cream in their hand, the next thing they need to do is pay for it. For sake of simplicity, we'll say that this ice cream shop only accepts credit cards. To pay, the customer will need to give their credit card to the cashier, which will begin the process for them. Just like when the customer gave their order to the ice cream artist, we'll include an intermediate event here after gives credit card to show that the customer waits while the cashier performs their tasks. The starting event for the cashier in this example will be credit card received. From there, they'll perform a few tasks to process the transaction. First, they'll confirm the order, and then the cashier will run the credit card through the machine, and finally, will return the credit card and receipt to the customer. Since these three tasks are all part of the transaction process, I'm going to use an artifact to show that they go together. The artifact I'm using here is called a group, and I'll put it around the three cashier tasks and label it transaction process. Once the cashier has performed these tasks, the process for the ice cream shop ends, so we'll put an end event here and label it transaction complete. When the cashier gives the credit card and receipt to the customer then needs to receive their credit card and receipt. We'll also make this an intermediate event. After the customer has their ice cream, method of payment, and receipt in hand, they're now ready to eat their ice cream. The process ends when the customer finishes eating and leaves the store. Eats ice cream will be our customer's final task, and since it's a manual task, we'll label it with the appropriate icon. Leaves the store will be the end event for our process for the customer. Bpmn is a great way to communicate complex processes to stakeholders in all departments. The example we made is fairly simple, but Bpmn diagrams can get even more complex. Thanks for watching this tutorial on Bpmn 2.0. Please subscribe to our channel to see more helpful tutorials.
Here, as we discussed, this is a kind of high-level diagram. Okay, the point here to understand is this is really a detailing of each and every processes. Okay, so here what we are trying to do, we are trying to understand what type of solution will address, in terms of what are the processes included within these solutions, right? So here, as you can see, these are kind of advanced version of flowcharts, and that's why we normally include flowcharting in our sessions. Okay. Just to make sure in terms of we understand this thing really better, it's a kind of advanced high level diagrams as we normally perceive it. In companies like TCS as well as Infosys, they use high level diagram as a logical diagram as well as Bpmn both, to make sure to start with high level diagrams where we have different blocks for these different processes, like deliver ice cream, like attendance, automated attendance, and something like these processes are explained in depth with these two diagrams. So high level diagrams can be two diagrams as well, depending upon the company you join, depending upon the way they do analysis in depth, in detail, in terms of diagramming way goes. So this way we need to understand as a business analyst how we cope up with the such scenario. Now there are these Bpmn version 2 we talked about. There could be Bpmn version 3, 4, depending upon those things. We might to learn those version numbers, figures, sessions, whatever we need to include in this diagramming. But basically, when it comes to something like diagramming, this is how we start a typical high level diagram. Okay, so to practice these type of high level diagram basically gives us a clear idea in terms of how we are going to achieve diagramming to start with. Does that make sense to you? Anybody have any questions, confusion at this moment?
No, sir.
Now let me try to showcase you how I will draw business diagram with using simple Word, Microsoft Word. Okay, and this is, you can do it this way. You can use your own, oh come on, wait a minute. You can do it Word with Microsoft Word. You can do it with whatever.
Visio, sir. Visio.
No, well, I have Visio, but Visio is a bit complicated, right? So I want to showcase you on Microsoft Word typically. This is my Microsoft Word version 2013, I believe. How do I find version? Okay, let me open. I'll open the blank diagram. Okay?
You can go to help, I think, sir. You can see the version. Help.
Yeah, I can understand, and that's why I came here. Now the help is where is the help? Sorry, or
info. I think I saw info there.
No, wait a minute. Account, switch account, no. Okay, let me try that info thing. Yes, info. No, they are giving info about on these things. Let me options. No, that's also different. Okay, let me press F1. If you press F1 on your keyboard, yes, this is the help, right? So let it come. What the heck is that? Okay, something gone wrong with that. So if I go to more, okay, it's Office 13. Could you see Office 13 there? I don't know what the hell this is coming. Okay, this is Office 13. Okay, because it's coming to an end. That's why I have older version of Office. So I believe everybody can get this Office 13 at a very cheap price from Microsoft. Okay, now they are ending the support. It will be really like dirt cheap, and you can go for it. So this is Office 13. Okay, now I'll just go to the page layout and I'll make it landscape. Okay, just to be it any easy. Now I want to draw a typical high level diagram as we shown here. So what I'll do, I'll go to insert, I'll go to shapes, and I'll basically let's do this way. Let's do this thing. This is what we call text box. Okay, if you hover your mouse a bit longer time, you'll get that detail. Yeah, it's a text box. So I'm including a text box here. Right now, text box, I can have all type of coloring and everything. By right clicking this border, I can, oh come on, it let me format shape, so I can fill it with color. I can check the style and everything. Or if I can click here, see, I want to fill it with a gradient and all those things. You can have, you can try whatever thing you want. Then there is a these glow and all those things as well. If you want to 3D rotation as well, whatever you want to choose, there are good number of things available as far this thing. Then I can go to the line. solid line, no line, gradient line, this line, that line. I can choose whatever color I want to choose. I can have a transparency. I can increase the width, and whatever you want to do, you can play around with it, right? So this is what I do. Now I want to start typing requirements. As we discussed, left hand box has normally a requirement. So let's think. Anybody can guide me here? What type of requirement should I include in my high level diagram? For that, state form thought process, which we normally discuss as a standard sample. Anybody?
Time should be less than 30 seconds.
Okay, great. Let's say the attendance must be okay, pardon me for my English.
Registered in less than 30 seconds.
Registered, okay. Within 30
seconds.
Perfect. This is one. Now let's give some bullets and everything, right? So I'll go here and I'll give some good bullets. Let's do it this way. Whatever you want to choose, right? So I've collected this. Now the shape and all those is out of this thing, because I have to go here. I have to go here, and I have to basically I need to change these not symbols, the size and shape, right? Yes, by default it taken 36 windings, and for the symbol it have took okay, I don't know, there is a way to basically align these come on, it's at a picture, I believe, right? Okay, you have all those different type of pictures that the word supports and everything. Let's go with a simple dot. I don't know. Oh, come on. Okay, it's
Cancel.
yeah. Again, I think I have not list level. There's some change in shape and size of this image, I believe. I don't know why, but yes, you can change the shape and size of these things so that it will be a bit lesser or bigger. Let me try to increase this thing. Let's make it 48. No, that is getting 48, right? So let's make it a bit smaller. Yes, now it's look a bit relevant, right? So here we got, and then you can have these space and everything arranged from here. So I'll just do this way. It's for the below, right? Can I do it this way? Yes, something like that, and then I can basically check all this thing and move to this thing to save space and all. You can do all sort of things. You can give colors and everything as well, whatever you want. Okay, let's do it in this color. Okay, so here okay, the first one. Anyone else? It should be TERLISED, centralized database, right? Oh, come on. Centralized database. Okay, it required 24/7 online so LUTI1. I'm just writing whatever I'm thinking here, all right? And then it should support mobile, laptop, TAB tab, and whatever you want to do it. Okay, so these are the few requirements which are shared by shared with me with with different discussions I had with the VPHR or different executive. I can keep adding whatever I have discussed with them, and then this way you have to just have a list of requirement collected. Anyone to add another requirement to this list? Anyone? Think it through. Are we thinking, or are we just looking kind of let's participate. Okay, anybody can think about any other additional requirement? No? Okay, let me add. Let me get the previous data. Previous data from, let's say they have a SAP, right? I want to have leave management system as well. Okay, so let's stop here. I believe, okay, I couldn't spell previous as well, pardon me for that. Okay, so here let's say I have created these requirements. Okay, now I want to align it, and alignment you can do. Now what are the solutions? So let's say on this I thought I have to have a cloud based solution, so I'm giving a cloud, like that guy have given this thing. So this is my cloud, this is my solution. Okay, so I can label it as a solution or a proposed logical solution. Let's call it PROPOSED, proposed, or conceptual might be a right word, right? CPQL, conceptual solution. I might want to increase the font size of this because this should be, let's say 36. Okay, and then I want to make it a bit transparent, so I can increase transparency the way I want. Okay, so I can go up to no, not 100%. Let's reduce that. Okay, let's so this is my changes. I don't know why. I can change the feel as well. Okay, I can go this way, depending upon, let's call it this way, right? So this is my proposed solution. Now I want to add my solutions here. So how do I add? I can either have a cloud-like symbol, or I can take oval shape, whatever shape I want, right? So I'll have a centralized database. I'll click on database. I'll drop in a database here, where somewhere, let's say here, and I'll write down centralized database. CENTRALISED, centralized DB. And what's happened to my English? I don't know. So centralized DB. Okay, so this is centralized DB for every part of the solution I am creating. Now let's try to create solution for each of these requirements. What symbol should I use? Anybody? What symbol do you like? There are a number of symbols available here, right? So what I want to use? Anyone to suggest anything? Let's go ahead with this oval shape. So I have created an oval shape. Now let's change the color. The fill should be, this look better. Okay, let's have this one. Now the symbol can be cloud, DEPLOYED, so LUTION, or I can say Google Cloud. Let's be specific there. Google Cloud. Oh, I can split cloud as well. Pardon me for that. I can change the color of the character. I can change the color of the line. I can use something like this. I can use something like this. Means there are presets available, whatever you want to choose. Okay, I have decided this. I'll also change the font to, let's say 30. No, it's too big, right? So let's do a bit of reduction. 21. Okay, does it make sense? So cloud deployed solution. Have I added the word solution? No. Now to connect with the requirement, what I do, I'll insert an arrow. There are a number of arrows here. Could you see arrows here? Let's try to use this arrow. Okay, and this 24/7 centralized database, and these are the solution for that, right? So I'll connect like this. I'll basically choose the fill, whatever I want to choose fill, because it should be and then I can increase the size, shape as I want. Okay, I need to make it a more so this basically supports two of my problems. One is basically this one, you can play around and you can use your artistic talent. So these requirement fulfillment was centralized database and 24/7 solution. Normally, you represent it this way, right? And this way I have started building my actual high level diagram. Could you understand how I have started it? By simple word. You can do it with a pen and paper as well. Now that proposed solution have been so I need to make it transparent. Let's try to make it transparent again. I don't know why it's not Yeah, is it working? Oh, come on. Oh, yes, it's working now, I believe. So let's take it at 82%. Otherwise, I'll just move up. I'll, rotate the arrow in a similar way, or I'll shift the, oh, come on, not that much. I'm just moving it with my mouse. I'm not an artist, but, here I believe, I'm trying to do a justification to that requirement. That's all. Could you understand what I'm trying to do, sir, madam? Any
Yes.
confusion?
Yeah, yeah.
Try to play around with this way and try to build a high level diagram for something like these a solution which we are discussing, or use something like yoga app to be developed on Android. You can choose your problem, you can choose your own case study to basically build a high level diagram. Yes, do you have a question for me, sir? Anybody have any question for me? Be what you can say, use your own imagination for colors, shapes, sizes. I've just done whatever it came to my mind, right? And to add a sap, I can also use something like, let me, oh come on, insert. You can use all the shapes here, whatever available. Let's denote sap by whatever I call this one, okay? And I have this one. So this is my SAP symbol, SAP.
So what is the difference between high level diagram and Bpmn?
Good
Are
question.
they same or different, or?
Yeah. Let me come back to that. Give me a minute, please.
Yeah, sure.
Let's. I think this is readable. Okay. So high level diagram is a typically conceptual or a logical diagram, like we are building concept here. So on the cloud, okay, cloud SAP will be my local, or if I have SAP HANA, that's what the cloud version of SAP. Anybody know SAP here? Worked on SAP? No, okay, no problem. SAP is something called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. In such software, we have everything in terms of data for a given organization, where I have HR data, the inward receipt, the outward receipt, the quality check report, the audit report, and everything. So SAP is a single enterprise resource planning software, ERP as we normally call it. And SAP is one of the most matured ERP in the world. Well, it's of course one of the most costliest. It's cost around at least the basic license start with $600 per year per processor. Yeah, it's a server based software, and you have to give a server. So $800 to $600 is the basic this thing. Normally a given small size organization also use a couple of processor based servers for SAP. Now they have some cloud versions or service as you want, a SaaS model as well. So you might have 10 users connected to the SAP HANA on Amazon cloud or something like that. So this way you normally of course it's a paid software, it's not free software. So SAP, you normally start using SAP whenever you start an organization, to make sure all your data is at a centralized place. So whenever you build a solution, now you integrate with something like SAP, okay? And that's why SAP can be mostly an added part. As I know, I worked with State Farm, they use SAP as well, okay? So this way we need to basically conceptualize the solution, what all need to be included, what all need to be integrated with, and all those things. If it's outside the system, I might pull this thing outside the system. I might reduce the shape and size. The shape and size doesn't matter in terms of actual this thing. And I might basically add another type of communication to this. There are these arrows, right? So let me take these arrows, and this arrow I can color it with, let's say, which color I have. Okay, let's use this. Come on. Okay, that's for the border, I believe. Which one? This one, right? Yes. So I might use this with this SAP communication thought process. So here something like this. So SAP is outside my present cloud, but yes, I'm communicating with SAP. So I'm getting the data and sending the data to the SAP as well. So all these arrow are basically the communication methodology or the extension to the given problem. So this is like problems on the left side and these are the solution on the right side. Okay, could you understand how we can basically shape an high level diagram? Anybody have any confusion?
No, sir.
Yeah, good, right? Now there's a homework to draw an conceptual diagram. Use your imagination. You can use the example which we normally discussed. Me working as a business analyst with Infosys, drawing a high level diagram for State Farm, and the functionality as we discussed. The attendance should be must be registered within 30 seconds. It should have a centralized database, 24/7 online solution, support mobile, laptop, desktop, whatever you want to add. Previous data should be synced with the SAP. Leave management system should be included. You can add a number of others as use biometric. Try to have all the 60-80 offices within 6 countries synchronized on this system and blah 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 things. Use imagination and try to get a high level diagram. Please try to draw it with either pen and paper. You can use Microsoft Word, you can use Lucid Chat, you can also use Bpmn if you want. Okay, use your imagination and let's present that thing in our next session. Does anybody have any question, confusion?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So again, homework is not compulsory, but if you do it, you can learn up to a nth level. So you can learn it in detail. And these are all life skill. Believe me, these are just not for business analyst or a project manager. If you know how to do a high level diagram, it's really good to basically conceptualize something. It can be something like I'm planning a trip to Nevada, I'm planning a trip to Niagara Falls, and I can basically build a high level diagram in terms of what will be the problem, what will be the solution, and so on and so forth. So it's a simple pairing type of game where I build a conceptual diagram, or you can go to a next level and build Bpmn diagram. Okay, let me share all these videos with you, whichever I played, so that if you want to subscribe to them or if you want to ask questions to those trainers directly, you can do it. Again, these are all copyright of their respective trainers. Okay, so let me share those links of the videos as well, so you can download or you can watch on the YouTube whenever you want to, and you can basically learn and understand or draw these high level diagrams. Okay, with that, let me come to closure of this session. We'll have our next session on 27th, right? No, yeah, 27th Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Okay, anybody have any question as of now?
I had a few questions.
Please go ahead.
Actually.
Don't stop
Yeah,
yourself.
so one was, what is the difference between high level and Bpmn? I was not clear on that. Both are same or different, or
Okay. Both are different, but normally one is used as an extension of others. This high level diagram which you are seeing on the screen is basically a conceptual or a logical diagram. Here we are just basically inventing the basic logic of a solution or a basic concept of a solution. In business process modeling notation diagram, we are trying to explain each and every of events or the solution we are supporting, we are building for a client. So Bpmn diagrams are much more detailed. But if you understand the basic concept or a basic logical solution, you can easily create a Bpmn diagram. Let's say the first one which we have here, the solution which we are supporting here is centralized database and 24/7 solution. How we are going to achieve it? With the Google Cloud delivery deployment, right? So you can basically build a Bpmn diagram. How are you going to deploy it to the Google Cloud? So for that, you might need to apply to the Google saying, okay, boss, I need these type of storages. How much storages? This GB, that GB type of storages. So 20 GB storages for 6 months. So Google says yes. So you need to pay so many dollars to me. Okay, so then you pay so many dollars, you acquire the resources. So then you normally deploy a database server there because it's a database, right? So deploy a database there and start using that database as a database for the solution. So it's like kind of detailing each and every logical conceptions, or conceptual thought process you have decided within this high level diagram. Does that answer your
Okay.
question, sir?
Yeah, sure.
And like
Okay.
that, again, not every company wants to draw both the diagram, but TCS and Infosys, they normally have both these diagrams included in high-level diagrams. So they have a logical, conceptual diagram. They start within couple of 1 hour second meeting. You should start with these diagrams as a business process modeling, and then after, whenever you're trying to release the first SRS, you should have at least 1 or 2 Bpmn for all the complicated events or complicated solution you're trying to give it to the client. So that makes sense, like what are included, what are excluded, and all those kind of scenario. Okay.
Okay.
It depends on whatever company you join. And as a project manager, I might need to refer this diagram because it gives me a clear idea what have been suggested and what has to be developed for my client.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just one more. I had one more
Please.
question.
Please,
So
please.
say, for example, if I am, say, Infosys, I'm from Infosys, and say I had developed this attendance monitoring system for, say, client A, someone, it could be Amazon, say, for example.
Sure.
And then I come across another client who wants a system. So will I start from the scratch, or will I say that I already have this system, and of course there can be some customization for client B, but will I not reuse that whole system which I had already built?
Definitely will reuse, sir. Why to start from scratch? Why to
Right.
reinvent the wheel?
So
Even most of the cases, I use the same source code. Means if you typically talk about the IT companies, why IT companies are so profitable? Because the reusability. You don't have to start the products from scratch.
No, so
It's like
can I not just propose rather than, gather, like, okay, so we can gather the requirement, that is for sure, but can I not propose that, okay, or say, for example, if I'm like a new business, say I'm like a coaching business, for example, online teaching, something like that. So then will I actually go to TCS and tell that this is my requirement and you build the whole thing, or will I go to like a vendor who has like a learning management system, and will I not just purchase that? Because building from scratch is like I will have to bear all the cost, but whereas if there is a solution already there, then I don't have to bear the cost all alone, basically.
very rightly said, sir. And most of the time, we normally go for something like online. Okay,
Yeah.
we were discussing about ERP, right? There's a ERP called Open ERP, which is free of cost. I get that ERP, which is built in Java. I customize it as per my need, which will be like 6 months effort and some couple of $1,000 spending with the developer salaries and everything, which
Right.
are treated in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, whatnot, cheapest developers, right? And I get that customized as per my need, and I'll use that ERP, na? But again, somebody, it's like purchasing a trouser or a t-shirt. I might purchase from Amazon, which are really dirt cheap, or I might go to Valusen or a big branded shirt store. Again, it depends on your choice, need, scenarios, right, sir?
Sir, a quick thing. So, as you said that, so then what is the need of this person who is hired, because the client already knows that they can buy something from third party. So why can't they go and buy and do the same thing instead of hiring this resource?
Sir, do you think everybody knows everything?
I think if they're aware of once, I mean, if it is done once, then it can be used anywhere else in the company, right? So
Sai sir, let me ask you a question. Do you know Open ERP?
yes, sir, I worked in ERP.
You work, okay, that's how you know. Okay, do you know dark web?
Dark web I've never heard of.
You never heard of? Anybody heard of dark web?
I just heard of it, and I know that you find things which you don't find on the web.
Exactly. Okay, so you got the point. So this way, there are persons who know something, don't know something. Again, it's a matter of knowledge to the business owner, right? Because he decides these things. Like we are talking about the VPHR of State Farm. If you know all these things, he'll go and search in a Google saying, okay, attendance management system free of cost. So there could be 3-4 attendance management system which are already deployed as an open system, which you can get, and you hire 2 developers anywhere in the world and get it customized for your need, and then you'll have a basic solution within just few $1,000s. Why spend millions of dollars with connecting with Infosys and all those things? Because you need support, you need maintenance, you need enhancement and blah blah things, right? So there was BlackBerry famous a few years back. So this attendance management system should support BlackBerry. With the open attendance management system, you might not be able to, or you might need to end up developing another attendance management system as well. But with Infosys, you just send them a request and they'll get back to you within a couple of weeks, and within a month or two the compatibility has been developed, because Infosys have trained resource, trained architect solution. They will basically create all type of documentation for you. With these developers, they might not share the code they've written with you, and they'll give you the compiled libraries only, so that the maintenance is a really nightmare. Could you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, sir.
So
But
yes,
most of the companies, so I mean, as you said that they don't share the code or something. They have these technical documents where you have to uh, provide all the code there so that goes off for a sign off from the manager. So there you have to you provide all that code, whatever you did, because the next person who's coming, he should be aware, and it is also for company documentation that the technical document is needed, right?
whatever you're saying, very right, sir. But in real practical world, if everybody works according to whatever they're on paper, we don't need the legal system, the judiciary, right? There are legal challenges, because these people, they hide something, they give you something, they give you something different whatever they're developed from, and blah blah things. There are lots of malpractices, sir. The way we believe as a normal things to be get done, it's very easier said than done, believe me. There are lots of challenges in
Okay.
the world.
Okay.
So that's why we normally go with good partners, and for good partners means you need to pay a bit of money from your pocket, saying okay, yes, now I am relieved that okay, this thing is it's like hiring a driver. You can get a driver at $5 an hour cost. You can get a drivers at $20 hour and cost. The difference is basically the reliability, the experience, the skills, right? The $5 driver might hit your car, might be 2 months down the line, but when you talk about $20 driver, $20 per hour driver, he's a senior enough, and he have driven similar car for quite a good number of years or months, so he know how to drive car. And you basically can be rest assured that car won't be he's not going to bang your car against anybody, or any object for that matters. And this is what we talk about reliability. This is what we talk about confidence, or insurance, as we normally call it, to make sure whatever we think, we should get it done. It's like doctor, right? There are doctors which give you medicines from jadi booty and all those homeopathy and allopathy in India. But if you go to actual doctor, which is kind of medical practitioners, you need to pay at least 500 rupees as a fee. And why we do that? Because there's a belief, there's a quality what we expect, there's a a kind of responsibility what we expect to be taken by the person which we are paying. Does that make sense to you, sir?
Yeah, sir. Yeah. Yep.
So this way again depends on the business owner's choices, and whatever he knows, whatever he or she don't know, and depending on that, we normally start building solution for a given requirement, for a given problem. Again, there comes the reliability, the experience, the brand, and a whole 9 yards of such things. Okay, chalo then. Let me pardon me, I have to talk here around 15 minutes over the time, but yeah, no problem. This is a really great discussion, and this gives you a real idea of how business works in North America or Canada as of now. And for that, we have all these policies and processes and tools. We are learning one at a time. We are what you can say, improving ourselves one step at a time. Okay, so with that, let me stop here, and let's meet again on Tuesday 9:30. Have a great weekend. Good night. Bye bye. Take care.